Well, that's somewhat annoying that I was well into this video and I thought it was going to be the final take, and then me camo and tits up. Anyway, back where was I? Yes. I was scrolling through Facebook this morning. I came across a post in a group that I'm part of called Cats Not Kids, for people who have cats and not kids. And the post was by a policeman who I assume was in America. Seems to be a safe bet. I didn't actually check properly. And he said that he had been kicked out of cat groups on Facebook for being a policeman. Yes. And that was unusual to me. So what I did was I looked at the comments and I found out that there was quite polarised views in the comments. Some people really liked the police, and some people said that if this group supported the police and didn't just exclude this bloke out of hand, that they would be leaving the group. And this has set me away, to be honest. I felt that I needed to make a video on it. And here is that video. Now, I personally find that ridiculous, and I struggle to be impartial in this issue. Of course, I don't think there's a single successful civilized country on the planet, and a few uncivilized countries as well, that doesn't have a police force and that doesn't need a police force. And the fact that some people feel that just because somebody has chosen to enter into law enforcement and the police service as a career, they should be excluded from anything, the odd thing that job might affect. But fucking cat groups. I mean, come on. It's difficult to sit here and be calm about it, to be honest. I don't know the bloke from Adam, but this level of polarisation that is being reflected towards law enforcement and the police force is very disturbing, and I believe an indication of what having the half-baked social media rumour mill is doing to modern society. It really is. The police service shares a lot of similarities with a lot of other jobs. You've got people who went there because they didn't think they could get a better job, or they thought the job suited them, and they go in, they sort of do a decent job, and then they go home. You've got the ones who go in, do as little as possible, then go home. You've got the ones who really want to make a difference, and they thought the police force was the way to go, so they went in and they'll do as much as they can and then go home. And then you've got the bastards who found a job that would benefit them more than anything, and they're willing to shit on a great height on anybody just to, they'll walk over corpses just for a cup of tea, and then they'll go home. Now, the problem is, I think people get a skewed impression of how many fall into category 4 here. I don't know how many fall into category 4. I worked it out. If you got to, let's say you do 3 or 4 calls a day, and if you've got police force of 20 in some small American town, and there's 2 bastards. Let's say the 10% rule of 2 bastards, and they're doing 3 or 4 calls. Like, we'll say 3 calls an evening, and they're a bastard on 2 of those calls. Then that's 4 people, or 4 groups of people every night. 4 times 20, that's 28 people a week think their only interaction with a policeman made them think that them policemen were a bastard. And then you've got the good ones, and then we'll say we'll tally it up to maybe once or twice a week. They just do something wrong, or they've had a spat with their partner or something like that, and they come out and perhaps say something they shouldn't have. They don't judge somebody as well as they could. You know, so we can bring that up to 30. It's easy to say how many people will think all cops are bastards. I still think it's ridiculous. You know, in a job like that, I mean, like it's not, they're not Doctor Evil's fucking henchmen. You know what I mean? It's not, they don't, it's the police, law enforcement, peace officer. It's not the jackboot mob. It's not 1980 fucking 4. There are people who go into that job to try and do it well and to try and uphold the law. And maybe they get ground down. Certainly these days, with everybody saying they're bastards, with everybody saying they should take their funding away. We see examples. The Portland Police Commissioner got resigned because they were going to cut her pay. I mean, she was on a fortune. I assume she earned it, but because like they were saying that her police force was racist and was they were going to sack people and all sorts of things, and she was a black woman, and all right, they're saying, well, that doesn't really preclude your police force from being black. I'm going off the top of my head here, but I'm pretty sure most of the police force was black as well. But this is, they can still be racist, and I'm like, okay, I'll sort that one out when I've got when I'm trapped under a mountain for a year or so. Because every time I ask them, oh, you can still say this. You can go round and round and round with that, but you cannot convince me. You cannot convince me that not even a majority of policemen, or police officers, I should say, because there's any amount of women who do it as well. I do apologise. That all police officers are bastards. All police officers deserve ostracification. You are creating a problem. If you think like that, you are creating a problem. Likewise, you can't think the sun shines out their arse either. You know, we're not talking about the fucking Avengers here. You know, it's seriously, there's middle ground, people. Yes, of course, police must be held accountable. They must be held accountable. They must be not told, I suppose. You have to have a clear idea, or they have to have a clear idea what that job is and how they have to go about it. This is all stuff, yes, but I don't see what problem is solved by flinging insults, by writing all cops are bastards on walls, by saying you've got to do a better job, so we're going to take half your money away. So get on with it. They're racist over there, sack them. It beggars belief. It's hard not to get angry at the level of stupid. No, I'm not gonna say it. I said it in the last video. You can tell I'm getting a bit worked up here. It's just so. I mean, I don't know anything about these people. I mean, I've got reasons not to like the police. I really do. I might put them in another video. It'll take us half an hour to tell them here. I've had people arrested for stealing from us, and then they said they weren't going to charge them. I had police saying they weren't going to. I had a basically saying that they don't bother coming out to investigate crimes if they don't think they're going to catch the guy. Somebody wrote off my car. They bounced the Land Rover off it when it was in front of me house, me flat. And the police just said it wasn't worth coming out. And I was saying later, well, I could tell you it was a Land Rover. How much time would it take to just send an email to some garages and saying, have you seen a Land Rover with this damage on it? They could have done it. They just didn't bother themselves. Yeah, I know this. I know there's reasons to be frustrated and angry about law enforcement, but I mean, it's a good thing. We can't depend on the kindness of humanity here. We can't depend on people doing the right thing if you remove consequence from life. We can't depend on these things. Anarchy is not the way forward. And of course, it's always said, I knew a few bouncers always laughed at the kid in the anarchy t-shirt who kicked off on the door when they punched him. The first thing they did was call the police because they'd been punched. I mean, a lot of people are like this. The first thing they do is, as soon as somebody breaks the law, the first thing they do is they go crawling to the coppers who they've been calling worse than shite for most of their lives. It's just ridiculous. I really, really am finding it hard to articulate this. I mean, yes, I mean, if I was going to say things, the police have got a lot of tick box and stuff, especially in England. They've been giving them less and less money over the years. A lot of the problems is lack of funding, apathy on the part of many police officers, and it is difficult if there's 10 people in a room and 8 of them are apathetic and one wants to do more, but there's a mountain of apathy to climb over, and there's another one who can go around behind every bugger's back and just please himself, and nobody cares enough to do something apart from the one other guy. And then you are going to get the copper who rolls people downstairs, who, because he makes them feel better, who, like, his mummy didn't hug him and daddy wouldn't look at him, and his wife thinks he's a cunt, probably because he is a cunt, or her partner, whatever, you know what I mean. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're gonna get people that I've seen like that. I've seen people like that at work. They'll sit there and stare at a screen for 7 hours, and the minute you say something to them, they're on, I'll get the union, I'll do this, They exist in every job. Unfortunately, it's reflected a lot more onto the public in the police job. It's a sorry fact. We're going to be waiting a long old time before we get a perfect police force. I mean, there must be examples of good policing over in the world. I mean, I don't know what it's like in Norway or the Scandinavian countries. They have a very low crime rate. It comes back a lot that they are rich countries and they're relatively small. You've got relatively happy people, so they want to commit less crime. They don't need to break the law as much to get what they want. You've probably still got lazy people in these countries, but I'm imagining the social services compensate for that a lot. So the police have got less to do. You don't have to be as good a copper in a place that's got less crime, I suppose. I mean, you see it, all these little. I don't know how. Obviously, I don't really want to look to fiction, but you see these, like, one sheriff towns where nothing happens. So the sheriff's useless because he's never had to do now, but there's still no crime. It's a lot of good people when they're put into a difficult situation. Like, for instance, when there's 3 coppers stood there and there's 3 protesters burning the shit out of everything on that street, and you said the police did nothing, and it said, yeah, well, I think there was some similar riots in London, and there was 3 coppers watching a huge mob, and somebody says, "Oh, you're not going to do anything," and one of the coppers turned around and goes, "We're police, not Spartans. We can't do anything about that." And yeah, and I will say this, deliberately sabotaging these institutions is not going to help society, because these institutions are part of society and they're a vital part of society. Unless you can't get around having some sort of consequence walking around in case somebody decides to be a cunt. And yes, I know that includes the police. The police have to have a consequence waiting for them if they decide to be a cunt too. That's very important. But you can't do away with the police. You just can't. It won't work. If you think it'll work, tell me how, please. I'll listen. Now, that was a bit more of a rant than I hoped, and this is the 3rd take. I really thought I was going to get on that 2nd take of the fucking camera. Look, I'll follow this up with a couple of videos that I'll release through the week. I hope people don't think I'm a madman. Bye.